What's up, guys? Mysterious Man Toby slash Karai back at it again. Um, I'm happy to be back. Last week you got the intro, me coming back, and now I am back at it with my community video. So it has become extremely apparent, or rather, it's just been this way all along, and I haven't really noticed it, especially because I kind of took a 2 year hiatus. That the community is extremely toxic. You have people who are doing best of fives and they beat you once and they don't want to play you again, or you lose a best of five to another player and you get trash talk really hard, or if you're playing friendlies with another player and you're streaming it, then and you lose them, people are going to say you're trash, and it's just very, very toxic Naruto community. So this video, the purpose of this video is to kind of give you an idea of the Naruto community as a whole, kind of where it's come from and where it is now from a perspective of a veteran. And what do I mean by that? So I think a lot of people, a lot of the people that watch my videos, a majority of them probably feel like I started playing in Storm 4, but this is actually not correct. I actually started playing. I actually joined the Storm community back in its infancy, back in Storm 2. Like, I was there at the beginning when Storm 2 came out and it had online and people were doing clans and stuff. So I actually started off with Storm 2, and I was top 3, if not the best, in Storm 2. Back then in Generations, I would argue that I was at least top 10 in Generations. Storm 3, I would argue I was at least top 25. It's very debatable because I didn't really I didn't really play a lot of people, and I'll get into that. And then Rev, I played a little bit of Rev, and then I skipped out on the rest of Rev. And then Storm 4, here I am. I don't consider myself a top player in Storm 4 because I see what the top players do, and I've actually even I played Playco like maybe 3 years. This was 3 years ago, but even then, it'd probably be even worse now. And it was already worse when I fought him then, and I got absolutely destroyed. So I'm like, in Storm 4, I'm like right under the top players. There's the top players, and then there's the players under that. That's where I am now. Maybe if I trained, it'd be a different story. I don't know. But I give you that to kind of, I guess that's like my Storm resume. Ha ha ha. But anyways, I say that just to context this. So that way, I guess, I mean, there's no way to really prove what I said, but it kind of gives you an idea, okay, this guy might actually know what he's talking about. So with that being said, I'm going to start with Storm 2 because I feel that Storm 2 is very important. I am going to explain Storm 2 first, and I'm just going to explain like the way the community was and how it got to that point, and go from there. So with that being said, Storm 2, the community was very much so in its infancy around this time, and what it matured into was actually pretty interesting. So the community was kind of like in a split. Of where you have players who on one end were like, we're going to play with no rules, we're going to sub ultimate, we're going to do what we can to win because like that's the way you play the game. There are no literal rules. And then there was this other side of the community that was like, well, we're going to play with rules because if we put rules into the game, then other people can actually use the characters they want to use. Like, you're not beating Sasori with Yamato in Storm 2. I mean, you can kind of do some things here and there. He has more tools to work in meta than others, but it's really not going to happen. But in legit, I mean, he's actually a really good character because he can use his combos. His combos are actually very good. Now, to preface this, legit doesn't actually exist. More, the technical name behind it, we called it legit back then, but the actual name of it would just be play with rules, There was a side of the community that played with rules and a side of the community that didn't. Now, at the time, the community wasn't extremely toxic. And at the time, recording equipment wasn't accessible to everyone. You had a few people back then who would record, like Spy09, if you guys remember him on a PSN side. You had Spiral, who had Xbox and PSN. You had a couple other players, like I think Comp Maestro was huge too. So you had like, it wasn't completely accessible, but these were a few names that come to mind during the Storm 2 era. And so with that being said, the community was, in my opinion, in a healthy spot because, well, it was quite normal for us to just game and grind out Storm 2. And basically, you would meet a lot of character specialists in Storm 2. Like, you would come across Yamato mains, Karin mains, Jugo mains, Soigetsu mains, Sasuke mains, like all these different mains, because, you know, people were just grinding and trying to get better with their characters, whether they played with rules or without. And then you had people who wanted to spam, who only wanted to play that side of things. I personally played both. I enjoyed both, and I like to play with rules to kind of mix it up, because sometimes it did get boring just spamming a lot. And so with that being said, in Storm 2, the community was actually pretty healthy. A lot of people were, you know, just grinding it out, learning the game, and there were character specialists, and it was very common. Like, every day I was grinding it out against a different person. It was very common to play a minimum of 40 to 50 games with someone, take an hour break or so, and then grind out another 40 or 50 games with someone else, at least. And this is at least, for long periods of time. Now, the community didn't start to get really toxic until the end, where there was more of a dominance, or people trying to assert dominance, that kind of factor, because the game had matured so much that now people were like, okay, this person's the best, that person's the best. And of course, you have a bunch of guys and their egos, and you can see where this is going. Fortunately, though, recording equipment wasn't that abundant. There were only a few people that had recording equipment and kind of used it for that purpose, one of which was the Master 585. If you know who that is, he was a renowned Storm 2 Xbox player / Storm G. Storm 3, he was carried by two really strong players, which I'll get into later, but that's not the point. And then in Rev, he just quit. That was when he quit. So yeah, Storm 2, though, he is widely considered, or was widely considered, the best player in the game. You know, his clan had no losses, all these different things. So I guess you can see where I'm going. And he had recording equipment too, or he was able to record his matches. So with that being said, you know, there were times where people would talk crap and he'd smack them up and put them up on YouTube. And so what this led into was that, you know, you had kind of like that thing going on. And then a lot of people trying to prove stuff, but it hadn't gotten that toxic, because ultimately, if you beat a player and you said you beat them, it was really your word versus their word. So unless they joined the party and said, hey, this guy whooped my ass, then it didn't happen, you know. So if you had recording software, that was huge, because you could say you beat this person and upload them, and then people would see, oh my goodness, he beat him. I remember some people saying, like Massacre, he'd be like, oh, I beat this person. Everyone was like, man, you didn't beat. You know, we'd be skeptical, like, did he really? Did the video pop up, and we would all get kind of hyped. We'd be like, oh shoot, he smacked this guy around. And that was when it really started to become toxic. In addition to that, people started dodging players towards the end of the game. If they had played you once and they knew there was a chance that you could beat them, they dodged you, because if they won that last match that they played with you, they could tell everyone, hey, we played, I beat him, I'm better than him. And so that was towards the end of Storm 2 was when it really got toxic. Well, it didn't get extremely toxic, but you could see it starting to surface into what would become a huge problem. So with that being said, that's kind of like some Storm 2 stuff. Not to mention, I actually will say this. Another thing that was really toxic about the community is that people really talk trash to each other, but that was kind of like the Xbox era in itself. So yeah, now I'm going to move on to Storm G. So yes, Storm G. So Storm G, this is when the community really, like, it was starting to get toxic in Storm 2. This is where it got toxic. More people could record, and we cannot forget the infamous all-knowing replay system from Storm G. Yes, the replay system from Storm G was very made. I cannot express this enough, but the replay system made Storm G so toxic so fast, because now in Storm G, you still had a bunch of people that couldn't record, but because of the replay system, because of endless, and because of tournament spectating, endless spectating and tournament spectating, now you could just get into the lobby with someone and say, hey, record our matches, and they would record them. Or you could smack someone in rank, record the replay, say the replay, and throw it up on the replay channel. And what was interesting about that is that the replay channel, replays didn't show lag. So if it was lagging, when the replay was uploaded, it didn't show that. It didn't show a connection bar or anything like that. So even if it was lagging and you beat someone and they were like, hey, well, you beat me, but it was lagging, you can just lie and say, no, it wasn't. And there was no way to prove it. Because no one cared to really look at the matches and be like, yeah, you can tell they're lagging because he did this and that. No one really cared. And so with all of that, the community really matured into its toxic self real fast. You had a bunch of people that were starting to talk trash, and now what happened is that now, because there was no, see, in Storm 2, there was a clear way that the game played without rules, and then there was a clear way that the game played with rules. However, Storm G had the implementation of the sub bar and other mechanics. So because of the sub bar, technically people were like, well, you can't really, like, you can spam, but like, you can sub anything. So now the line started to become blurred. Now it was kind of like, well, we'll probably just ban characters, but there is no quote unquote playing with, like, they're still playing with rules, but there is no quote unquote legit anymore. Because there's really no clear way that legit would look in that game, because even if you because you can sub anything. So if someone sub ultimating someone was actually bad, or is bad, because they could just sub or jump out of the way and punish you during your recovery frames. So with that being said, the community kind of became this is when the community really started to get a lot more toxic because of the replay feature. You had people, of course, talking trash and stuff like that, but the replay feature really matured the toxic state of the community fast, and it got really bad. It got kind of hard to play people like we used to play, because you never knew if someone was recording, and it made it even worse because if someone was in an endless and they could record, everyone was going to try hard. Everyone was going to try hard. And so I honestly feel like the replay system kind of it pushed the community into that state fast. And then now I'm going to talk about Storm 3. So yeah. Now enter Storm 3. So Storm 3 did something interesting. For whatever reason, they got rid of the replay feature. So they get rid of the replay feature, but Storm 3 carries over with it endless and tournament spectating. So with that being said, you can see where this is going. You have an extremely toxic community from before, because now you have the replay system, all this different stuff. People are recording. You have egos, all this good stuff that just makes for a perfect toxic community. And then you have Storm 3. So what was interesting about Storm 3 is that Storm 3 was a very different game from the previous games, because Storm 3 was a very, all Storm games are matchup dependent, but Storm 3 is huge on matchups. And it was one where you could really catch people off guard, because you had stuff like Runaway Conan. Conan had Instant Awakening, and her Instant Awakening was her angel form, and she was so fast and you couldn't catch her. You had Runaway Minato, and then if you wanted to be different or unique, you had Runaway Lee or Runaway Guy. And then you had, Masked Man and Storm 3, which he was... It's hard to say if he was better in Storm 3 or not, because he was good in G, but in Storm 3 he was really toxic because of his awakening action. So Masked Man had this instant awakening of where his awakening actions in Storm 3 were two of the same ability, in which when you pressed it you couldn't get hit by anything at all. You were completely intangible. I don't know why they would give that to him, but they gave it to him. So literally, you could be in a situation where you'd have no subs or chakra, instant awakening, which was really easy to do because you could be blocking an instant awaken. And then you could just turn on a common strategy people would do in Storm 3 with them was they'd have one sub left, they'd be in a bad spot, they would instant awaken and then sub out of that combo and then immediately, mash out their awakening action. So literally, that strategy right there was literally nothing you could do but stay on them and throw projectiles, because the projectiles could interrupt the action he was doing. But it was kind of like it was still a way for him to get out. It still bought him time. But that's not the point of what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that at this point, the community is really toxic. And the community is so toxic that I remember being like fed up with the community. And this was when I really started, because a lot of you guys don't know, but before this channel helped people, it hurt people. And I basically exposed a lot of people in G, but I really exposed people in Storm 3. And with that being said, in Storm 3, I basically just said, you know what, forget this community, forget this game. I don't even care about trying to prove myself. Like in the last 2 games, I actually played people. I tried to prove myself. I got better. In Storm 3, I said, F this. I don't care anymore. I'm going to play people once or twice. I'm going to record them. I'm going to get the footage, and I'm going to upload them, expose them, and that's it. I'm better than them. I'm going to use their logic against them. I got really fed up with the way the community was, because basically it had gotten to a point where people would play you once and beat you. They'd never play you again. People were recording you. Like, you would be in an endless playing with people. They would record your losses and upload you. It was so bad. It was so toxic. So bad. So I said, forget this. I will play friendlies with my clan, because I had a clan, and I'll let you guys handle that. And then I'll just play, people once and upload them and expose them, and that'll be it. That will be it. I'm not gonna deal with this. I'm not gonna deal with this at all. I'm not gonna deal with this. And so I kind of I go off the deep end. I become really toxic at this point. I'm fighting toxic with toxic at this point. I'm exposing people. I'm talking trash. I'm beating people once and saying I'm way better than them. I'm using Runaway Conan the most. I'm using Minato. I'm using Runaway Minato. I'm mashing people out with Hanzo. I'm just going balls to the wall in toxicness. And so that was the maturity of how toxic the community was. And so yeah, it was absolutely horrible, extremely. Now I can't really say too much about Rev, because Rev actually made a lot of people quit, because people saw the mechanics and are like, yeah, no, I'm out. I'm not gonna play this. And I played it for a little while. I think I played it for a few months, and then I was out. I took another break from the Storm community until Storm 4. I can't really speak on how toxic the community was in Rev, but I can only assume from what I watched and heard, it was pretty much just as toxic. People were still doing the same thing. It was just different game, different mechanics, different spam, and different people. People were still GG no ring people, which was prevalent in G and 3, and sometimes it happened in Storm 2 at the end, as I discussed. And it was just really bad. I'd say the dark ages of the Storm community were probably started in Storm 3, honestly. So yeah, I can't speak too much on Rev, but it seemed just as toxic as Storm 3, if not worse. So yeah, it's just a lot of people quit when Rev came out because they didn't like the mechanics. So it's weird. It's almost like a purging of a lot of toxic people happened, and then new people came in to fill those shoes, and it's just literally you can't win for losing at all. With that being said, we are now on Storm 4. So what I want to say about Storm 4, the Storm 4 community, is that honestly, I didn't really know how toxic the Storm 4 community was, and that's because I honestly didn't I was and still am in the community, but I'm not knee deep in the community. Back in the day, in Storm 2 or G or 3, I used to be chilling in the party with top players. Used to be grinding it out. I used to be in it. I knew all the drama. I knew who was saying they were better than who, and I knew everything. But in Storm 4, I don't know anything. I only know what people post and what I get told here and there. So I didn't know how toxic the community was. And it wasn't until I watched Jerkflow Kato's video and Poison Okami's video, which was extremely helpful, that I realized, wow. For literally when I started Storm 4, I was thinking the community had changed, but in reality, no, it's still just as toxic. Like, it's still extremely toxic. People are still doing the same things, and it's horrible because here we are. I want to say it got really bad in Storm G, and here we are all these years later, like what, 7 years later, when with the last installment of the Storm series seemingly on its last legs, and people are still doing it. And I don't really understand it because you got fantastic people in the Storm community trying to do some stuff. Like, you got Poison Okami, Jerk Flow, they're putting out quality content, and then some other people putting out quality content. My name, your names escape me at the moment. Then you have Playco doing his thing. I don't know if any of you guys have heard about the Perfect Storm mod, but he's got that project that he's helping modders on, and just in general, just trying to push the series as far as they can go. You got Qyon. I don't know if you guys know who Qyon is. I'm assuming you should know. But anyways, he's actually hosting a LAN Storm tournament, which is huge. He's going to host a LAN Storm tournament, and he's always hosting online tournaments. In fact, it was actually funny because I've been kind of paying attention to the community here and there throughout my hiatus. And I remember recently I looked at one of the tournaments he had, and he said people were complaining about the prize pool not being high enough. And I was just thinking to myself, like, you do realize that it's going to be a while before you can actually, like, truly, like, if all you want to do is play Storm and compete and win, it's going to be a minute before you can actually do that, because the community still has to mature. The community doesn't even have organizations looking to sponsor people yet. So anyways, you got people trying to do a lot of fantastic stuff, and I didn't really know it was that toxic, but it is extremely toxic still. It's just that the reason why I didn't know is because I'm not knee deep in the community anymore. So I'm pretty sure things have been said about me, but it never gets back to me because, in most cases it never gets back to me because I'm not in it like I used to be. Personally, I've only had like one toxic incident, and it wasn't really in regards to Storm 4. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But I don't really want to dabble into that because I don't want to spark anything. I don't want to drag people back into something that has been finished. I don't want to be redundant or anything, but I had a toxic incident before I left, and it was kind of scary because another person came to me. And it was kind of scary, but this person had stuff on the person that I had this beef with, that I had this incident with. And it was kind of scary because he had some stuff on him. And he was trying to give me everything. And he was saying, look, expose him. And I'm not going to lie, I thought about it. I'm like, man, my channel, Smash Ultimate was about to come out. I'm thinking to myself, like, man, I'm about to get the hell up out of here anyway. It don't matter if I expose people anymore. I was about to expose him real good. I mean, I was about to make up for all the years I haven't been exposing on his exposing video. I was about to get him real good. And it goes into the reason why I bring that up is because in Jerk Flow's video, which I'm going to be linking Jerk Flow's and Poison Okami's video in the description, so if you want to catch up on that, please do so, because their perspective is going to tell you what is exact, like, they can give you more on what's happening in the Storm 4 community than I can. I'm just giving you the perspective of a person who's been in it all the way. And so, with that being said, it was kind of crazy because Jerk Flow was talking about how, like, yeah, that's why I don't get close to people in this community, because, they're all, they want to tell other people your business and things you want to only keep between them. And that's what I'm saying, man. Just be careful who you're talking to in the community, because you don't know what they're doing. And I'm pretty sure that person didn't know that a person had all that stuff on them. But it was just kind of insane. And so I didn't do it, but it's just interesting that I guess I was kind of in denial because I thought the Storm community had come so far, but in reality, it has come far in a lot of instances. Again, there's a lot of competitive things going on, like real tourneys going on now. But it's just tough because people just want to be toxic, and it's even tougher because now people aren't open about being toxic. See, back in Storm 2 and Storm G and 3, people were open about it because it was a different time period. Like, you could be, you could be annoying and be a bully, and you could say, whatever you want to say, and you could be open, and it was cool to just be toxic. But now people realize, oh dang, I can't really be open about this because it'll hurt me in the long run. So now they hide it. So you might know someone's toxic, but they hide it so well that no one else knows they're toxic. Or at least, the public community, they don't know that that person's toxic, but maybe a few top players know that they're toxic. So, yeah, I mean, with Storm 4, that's pretty much the gist of it. I don't really know if this video will help, but I just kind of wanted to get my thoughts out there about the way the community's been and things of that nature, because it's been toxic for a while. And I don't really know what's going to save it at this point, because it seems like it's kind of crazy, but you would think with Storm 4 dying and it really being on its last legs, that people would say, okay, I'm not going to be toxic. I love this game. Let's see if we can all band together and help it survive. But no, like, people it's scary and toxic, but people are more willing to preserve their egos at the cost of the game and community dying than tossing that aside and saying, you know what, I love this game, I'm gonna stop being toxic, let's see what we can do with the scene. And that's crazy to me, the fact that these people would rather die on this hill of, well, I beat this person in this best of 5, so I'm better, and ultimately have the game die, than actually try and foster the scene so that it can be preserved and continue to thrive. I don't understand it, because I don't know what you're gaining outside of, validation from beating a person in best of 5, especially one best of 5. So it doesn't make any sense to me, but it's the community's focus, and I hope things will get better. I mean, I'm going to try to upload stuff and help out, but I'm only one person. Jerflow's only one person. Poison Okami's only one person. Qyon's only one person. Playco's only one person. Dark Master's only one. Da 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 da. You get where I'm going. There's more toxic people than there are people trying to do good. It seems from my perspective. So we'll just see. We'll just see, honestly. And so with that being said, this video was extremely long. I don't know who stayed to watch this, but if you did, kudos to you, because I just wanted to get my thoughts out on the community. I wanted to give a different perspective, and I hope that maybe I brought something to the discussion. So yeah, with that being said, Mysterious Man Toby signing out.